and welcome to another Home Field Advantage episode of We Only Look Thin. I am Katherine Weigel. I am 50% of the podcast We Only Look Thin.
Sure.
I don't know. I've had so much coffee. My name is Katherine Weigel. I've lost 145 pounds, and with me today is
Donald Weigel, and I'm the other 30, 20, 50%-ish of We Only Look Thin.
Congratulations.
And I have also had a fair amount of coffee, and I've lost about 100 pounds, and I've kept it off for, 3.5 years now.
Congratulations. Before we started this very podcast, we just listened to our last 2 episodes.
Yeah.
We have been in our heads, out of our heads.
I know.
For about 3 hours
It's
now.
been all about We Only Look Thin all morning, but we have a lot of steps to show for it because we were rebounding while we were listening, so it's good times.
Yeah, it's funny that we listen back to old episodes, and by old I mean new episodes you haven't heard yet, and we laugh at the same things that we say, or we try to make the same jokes before we say them on the podcast. We're in our heads a lot. We've been alone in isolation from COVID for like 18 months now. So we're just listening to ourselves.
Yeah, it feels like 18 months anyway.
But yeah, we're home. We're alone. Not everyone is home and alone. Some people are going out and seeing other people this summer.
And our previous 2 episodes were all about, the first one was about looking ahead to the summer and planning for it so that you weren't hit with, 45 or to 90 surprises, all the time about what was coming for your summer, and really planning for your health and your fitness. And then the second part, we talked about actually traveling, staying at hotels, staying at Airbnbs, rental properties, etc.
VRBOs.
Sure. BYOBs. And how to deal with that. So, you can still listen to those episodes and still enjoy them just as much as if they were brand new today. But this week we thought we would talk a little bit about what to do if you're staying in your own home. Yep. Like Katherine and I plan to do this summer, if you have a little vacation time. And also if you're going to go visit people.
In their homes.
The dreaded other humans.
Yeah, Donald and I are on definitely the conservative side of returning to society.
Yeah.
As introverts, we're not 100% sure if it is based on our being introverts or just worrying about society as a whole. We're not sure, but we're just going with it anyway.
I may have said this on this podcast before, but I can't, look, I don't want there to be a pandemic. Like, you really, for sure, I do not want there to be one. But I have felt like there were some benefits to it. One of which is whenever anybody asks me if I have plans for something, I panic.
Yeah. I know I said this recently, we were invited to a birthday party in January 2022, and I already, my pulse quickened.
Yeah.
I was already trying to come up with reasons where we were busy for some reason. And so, yeah, we're not outgoing, as they say.
We've had multiple people recently start asking us about making in-person plans, and I'm just I'm not ready for it. Even without a pandemic, that at the best of times, I don't always love doing that. But.
Yeah, but so now you know who we are and what we do. We like talking on our couch. That's basically as far as we go. But
yes.
So first, we're going to start out with people like us who are maybe just staying home this summer. Our daughter just experienced her last day of 9th grade the other day. And so tomorrow, Monday, is the first day of summer for us officially.
Yes, indeed.
So that can mean a change in schedules. Just because you're staying home doesn't mean you have to have the same schedule as you might during the school year.
Yes, schedule.
I don't.
So fancy.
Look, you all know by now that I just don't say things correctly. But as the summer progresses, his work schedule might change. We might loosen some of our rules. And being at home, sometimes the people call it a staycation.
Oh, yeah. Staycation. Very clever.
So that can mean that you are changing up your rules a little bit. During the school year, our daughter has to attend school on the couch at 8 a.m. So that means that we have to get our rebounding out of the way early, that we've got to kind of do our food prep and make sure that the living room is a school space for her. But now it's summertime. Donald and I can switch up our routines a little bit.
Yeah, and I should be having a small kind of break at work in between seasons of TV shows. So I don't have to be quite so rigid about when I go in. So we may have a sort of a break where we can get a little loosey-goosey, if you were, yeah.
But I think that also means if you're living with others or on your own, having a conversation with the man in the mirror or with the people that you live with to sort of talk about what an expectation for a staycation might be. And that could be, hey, are we going to switch up our food routines? I know we usually, like Donald and I, as humans, sometimes go on long hikes on the weekend.
Yeah.
And that might mean, hey, we're on staycation, and maybe we could do that during the week instead of waiting for the weekend.
Yeah, we really will get crazy with the cheese whiz, so to speak, and go on long hikes on a Tuesday.
Ooh, crazy. But that could also mean, which we've done in the past, is having a destination to walk to, because that's our jam, is the destination walk, where we might check out a new cafe on a day that might usually be a work day. So we actually walked like 2 or 3 miles to a cafe, had a delightful cup of coffee, and then walked home. That was our exciting journey. So having a staycation could also mean picking a new habit to try out for a week. It's sort of a mini break from your usual habits. Maybe you're used to rebounding or doing yoga. You could work on trying out a new habit for just a week, trying a new location that you walk to, or trying out a new workout video, new yoga, trying out a new class if things are opening up in your area. There's a Zumba class on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Sundays, I think, that I might actually want to try.
Oh, interesting.
Going to a class on a Wednesday? Who does that? That's crazy talk. But if you're having a staycation, you could switch up your schedule a little bit.
And I was thinking about actually, I was unemployed at the beginning of the pandemic, but I've been back to work since last July, and I really haven't been keeping up with my strength training the way I was before. And I was thinking about, a kind of staycation activity might be trying to get a little bit more back into that, at least working it back in occasionally, if not, every day like I had been doing beforehand. So maybe part of your staycation could be revisiting an old habit.
Well, that's a great idea too, because I think sometimes we think that if we're going to start a habit, it has to be forever. But
right.
Actually having it be like, oh, okay, well, I'm off for the next 7 days. So I'm going to do the strength training for 7 days. If I keep up with it after that, great. But right now I'll just look at it as a short term. That's a great idea.
Thank you. I have them once in a while.
Well, and two, I think when we're, in the school year or in a hard work time, we can definitely get regimented in terms of the kinds of foods that we have or the time that we take to meal prep and that kind of thing. So having a staycation might be trying out a new food plan. Or we got, I love cookbooks. Love them. Love having them. I hoard them like Gollum with rings.
How many recipes do you make out of them? That doesn't matter.
That's not what it's about.
That's not why you buy cookbooks.
Are we going to talk about who collects what for what reason?
No, we are not going to start that.
But I just pulled out a cookbook that I've had for a very long time and looked through it and found out that there were actually lots of really simple recipes that I could try out. So it might not be something that I would do traditionally during the school year or on a regular week, but I might be able to try 1 or 2 of them as kind of a special, I don't have to be the person that makes a new recipe every single week of my life, but during a staycation, I might be a little bit more exciting in the kitchen.
Yeah, and look, we're not saying that your staycation has to be completely boring about, starting new fitness habits and walking places. You can do fun things. You should do. We probably will try and do some fun things too, but the idea here is not to make everything about food. In the past, before I really started down this current path, I would use anything as an excuse for food. I would hear the word staycation, and before the sound of the N left the person's mouth, I would be like imagining all of the ways I could then indulge in treats.
Right.
And So we're talking about just trying to make the focus not entirely on food and put the food part of it maybe on the back burner when you're planning your stay-at-home vacation.
Well, and I would definitely be the like, okay, well, let's go get donuts right now and let's not walk and let's go get bagels and let's, make it all food-based like Donald said. But having a policy, if you're having a staycation like we might be doing, is we don't get bagels during the week. We don't get donuts on a random Monday.
Right.
That's not donut day. Having it as a planned indulgence for the end of the week or something like that could really make a difference. And I heard on another podcast someone suggesting having a really mellow food situation if making new recipes isn't your jam, being like, you know what? We're going to go to McDonald's on a random day and get Happy Meals for lunch.
Right.
And it's like, okay, that's 400 calories. It's totally doable. It's not extravagant. We're not going to supersize it, but relaxing your rules a little bit and having a little bit more flexibility so that you're not cooking every night. Or, hey, maybe even use paper plates.
Whoa.
What? So you don't have to do as many dishes.
Whoa, that is not fancy.
Blowing my mind.
Yeah.
So just think about changing up your situation at home. Make it a little bit more relaxed. Get up a little bit later. Do a couple of stretches. Enjoy coffee out on the patio. Do something cool.
Yeah.
We're so boring. Oh my gosh. There are people out there who are like, if they talk about walking to get coffee one more time. But that's what you got when you got We Only Look Thin. So.
Indeed. All right. But let's say that you are much more exciting than we are, and you've decided to go visit friends and or family.
What is that? If
Yeah.
it's not a Zoom call, I don't want it.
Exactly. What do you do then? How do you manage your weight loss and fitness plan in those situations?
So one thing we can do is look at the before times. What was it like then when you went to go and visit other people?
In the long, long ago?
In the long, long ago. But we have had situations where, we've talked about this previously, about different expectations for different kinds of visits. Are you going to go and visit someone who is a total food pusher, who's totally, maybe more sedentary than you might be,
Yeah.
who brings out the worst in your food habits? Are you going to be with people who drink every day,
Yeah.
which we definitely have friends who are heavier drinkers than us. We don't drink all that often, but there's definitely some pressure that we can feel to, go shot for shot with people who might, think of vacations as real food and drink Rumspringas.
Yeah, and even if it's not something like being with people who can't enjoy themselves without alcohol, it could be just something, we've gone on vacation or gone to people's houses. Like breakfast is not a big deal for Catherine and I. I typically don't eat it, but there are people that we go with who cannot do anything until breakfast happens. And so you have to ask yourself, how are you going to handle those situations? And what are you going to do, when you're with somebody who just has to have it? Or maybe you're the person who absolutely has to have it and you're going to visit people who don't eat breakfast and, you're in the reverse situation.
Well, and I think, and this has definitely come up with us where we have two different situations. Like Donald said, people who prioritize food and then people who don't think about food.
Yeah.
Who are maybe the people who I eat once a day. Oh, I had, coffee for breakfast. I don't need anything until dinner. And really deciding, I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I'm in my mid to late 40s right now. And if I can't start advocating for my food needs now,
Yeah.
when is that going to happen? I definitely, I have a situation coming up where I'm going to be seeing someone who really does maybe have one meal a day that they focus on. And in the past, that has led to me wanting to secret eat.
Yeah.
I bring food with me, Cliff Bars, like we've talked about before. Cliff Bars, sponsor the show, please sponsor us. But I would bring my own food to eat in my room if I was staying with them because they wouldn't eat. And so I would secret eat so that I could not eat until they ate.
Yeah, because you felt embarrassed or shameful or whatever.
Right. So sort of figuring out the kind of person that you're going to be visiting, or if they're coming to visit you, what are those habits like? And really ask yourself, if we're pulling back, is this a situation where you can be honest with the person or people that you're going to be spending time with about your food needs? Or is it a time to be private about your food expectations and just sort of go with the flow? Do you need to announce, hey, I'm counting calories or, hey, I'm abstaining from alcohol? Or do you pull back and say, I'm going to make some policies for myself during the visit, and I don't need to announce everything? Like I can just kind of play it close. So what kind of a relationship do you have? Is it something where you need to be verbal or maybe quiet about it?
Yeah. And if you're in a situation where you do feel like, and hopefully with your friends and relatives, you do feel like you can be honest, but I completely understand if you feel like you can't. But hopefully you're in a situation where you can be honest. And if you can, start out by trying to address it directly and really find out what the other people's expectations are for food. Find out, if you're somebody who has to have breakfast or you're somebody who always skips breakfast, like find out what they typically do. Find out what their typical plans are. Find out what they're thinking about for your visit in terms of food. Are they planning to make a lot of meals at home? Were they thinking you would just go out all the time? Really, address it and ask directly.
Yeah. And if you are going to someone else's house, see what you can do about having your own food in their fridge for yourself. So if you're driving there or if you're flying, go to the grocery store and really pick out foods that you know are your go-to ride or die safe foods, whether you need to make hard-boiled eggs or have yogurt or, cold cuts, as the kids used to say. Having foods that you know are your kind of safe go-to foods can really help you navigate someone else's kitchen. If they're having breakfast and you usually have a protein shake, it's okay to just stick with your protein shake.
Yeah. And, I actually kind of like the activity. I know it sounds weird probably to some people, but when I get to, my destination, especially if I'm going to visit my East Coast family, of like early in the trip, right when we get there, going to a grocery store and actually buying some stuff with them is kind of nice. And I also, maybe in a sick way, like exploring new grocery stores a little bit and figuring out what to buy. But really, I'm repeating exactly what Catherine just said, but, having some of your go-to things and having them in the house, having them ready to go can be really comforting and really, you've got that support there ready for you when you're ready to eat.
Yeah. And also, in that sort of pre-planning stage, make decisions and policies before you go to someone else's house. I think in the moment we can feel off guard, like, oh gosh, I didn't know that they were going to make this whole thing. Make some policies about no day snacking.
Yeah.
Like perhaps if anything is served in a bowl, family style, maybe you just don't go for any, highly palatable foods that are triggering for you. Make a policy for no day alcohol. If people are like, oh, we're festive, whatever, you can just say things like, what, it really makes me tired when I drink in the daytime. It doesn't have to be, well, I'm on a diet. No, it's too many calories. Because we don't really think about ourselves being on diets. We just have certain things that we know about ourselves. It doesn't end well if I start drinking mimosas first thing in the morning.
Yeah. And this can be really difficult. It's easier said than done, but prepare to be firm. Maybe even rehearse a little bit about being firm, because indulgences love company.
Yeah.
And when other people want, yes, exactly. When other people want to indulge, they don't like seeing the people that they're with ignore the indulgence or not partake in it, because I think people feel guilty, or maybe they just feel like they can't enjoy it as much or have as much fun. So really prepare to be firm, stick to your guns. And also, it's okay to let the other people know that just because you're not having it doesn't mean that they can't do it. Like, that it shouldn't stop them from doing whatever they want to do. Look, typically, we're all adults here, and it doesn't have to be about peer pressure at this point. I'm 51 years old. Like, if I continually am still bowing to peer pressure, then I really need to examine myself and choices and really work on setting better boundaries for myself.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's really difficult in the moment when we do make those, ooh, that looks really good, choices like, oh gosh, I didn't know the Pillsbury dope, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you just say like, I don't do day sweets, I don't do day whatever, it's much easier to just say no immediately than to hem and haw, because I know when I'm like, well, okay, well, I'll make this choice and it'll be okay and I'll be fine. Never in the history of I'll make a better choice later. Has that ever happened? That never, ever, ever happens.
For sure. So the other way to go about this, if you feel like you're in a situation where you can't be really honest, or maybe you just don't want to, is you can keep your cards close to your vest and not make a big deal about it. You don't have to go in, and I don't think you can do both of these things. I don't think you can be open and honest and then also do this, but you don't have to go in and announce up front that you're, trying to stick to a diet and fitness plan. You don't have to make it a huge deal, but you can then employ strategies to keep yourself on your plan without trying to rope in everybody else.
Right. So that ties into those policies that you kind of, don't necessarily announce, but you just sort of have them in your back pocket. And you don't have to be, like I said, deliberate and loud about your choices. You can just say, I really don't feel my best when I have sugar in the daytime. Oh, you know what? That looks really delicious, but I'm so full from before. You don't have to make a giant, no, I would never eat that. I'm on a,
Well, and it's not even a falsehood to say when I eat sugar early in the day, I feel like garbage in the afternoon. It just doesn't work well with me. And, I do also still technically have type 2 diabetes, which I can also use as an excuse not to eat certain things if I have to pull out that card. But even if you don't have that, just saying sugar makes me feel like garbage in the morning, or I can't eat that in the morning, I've got to stick to protein, or I get really tired later. Things like that can really work.
Yeah, so keeping to your normal food schedules and being out of sync with other people's plans is totally okay. It can feel really difficult when other people aren't eating. This actually happened to me. I was with someone who really just ate once a day, and I had to force myself to not secret eat and say, you know what? I really need to have scrambled eggs in the morning. I really need to have some yogurt. This is what I'm going to do right now. And you might be unsyncopated with other people's eating schedules. They might be hungry an hour later and then want to make a big meal. You don't have to synchronize exactly with other people's schedules.
Yeah, and you can also make it not about weight loss and fitness. And an appeal that really works with a lot of people is that you want to save money by making meals at home. I don't want to eat out all the time because it's just so expensive these days. So how about we grocery shop and we plan, I'll split the groceries with you or whatever you want to do, so that you can then control a little bit more about the kind of meals that you're making and actually have some, homemade stuff rather than going out to eat all the time.
Yeah. And another thing to do too is initiate or schedule walks or, before dinner, after dinner, in the morning. Have your own routine where you say, and you know what, when people visit, maybe they want time to themselves too. You don't have to do everything together and go, you know what? I really love listening to my audiobook in the morning and going for a walk. I'm going to go head out and do that. Or, hey, before dinner, can we go for a walk or do something like that? It's okay to initiate different patterns of behavior that might, benefit your lifestyle. It's better, we used to just sit and eat all the time with people.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, let's go for a walk. There's a really cool, botanical garden, or there's, all we do is walk around and do things. I'm sorry. This is the podcast you get. We can't pretend we do other exciting things.
Exactly. But, try and schedule some activities that don't have to revolve around food. Maybe you're going back to a town you're from, or maybe you're not from there. You can really pick some things to do. You can be like, look, when I used to live here, I really used to love doing X, Y, or Z that doesn't involve food. Or maybe you're a visitor to a town you're not that familiar with, and just really, do some research online and figure out some things to do that don't involve eating and drinking all the time.
Well, you bring up a really good point, because when I used to go back to New Jersey, it was basically a food tour that happened to have my family there. I can't go back to Trenton without going to eat good bakery.
Right.
I can't go without trying this. I can't do that.
Di Lorenzo's pizza.
Yeah. My dad yesterday was talking about a specific East Coast treat that was just from the Wawa, the convenience store. And I was like, oh my gosh, I so want a tasty cake. There, I said it, want a tasty cake.
Yeah.
But we think about going home as just being ways to tank up on food. Prioritize what really matters. Do you have to act like it is the last time you will ever be at that location and do a breakfast, lunch, and dinner indulgence every single day? Because like we said in a previous episode, you can anticipate gaining 5 pounds in a week or even a pound a day.
Right.
Like for me, I gain a pound a day.
A pound a day is not out of the question.
Not out of the question. That like still the fat is in the, reserve just waiting to come back and shine because they sure do like tasty cakes.
Yeah, it's sort of like revenge of the fat cells or whatever it is.
But we can be in a position, especially after, the pandemic, of being like, oh, I haven't had that in a year. I want to get all of it. It's my favorite. We are grown-ups who have the opportunity to make choices about the kinds of indulgences we do and prioritize those. You know what? I'll save that for next time. I don't need to get it all in my mouth in these 5 days.
Yeah, and I have to really be careful. This may be a slight tangent, but I have to really be careful about falling back into old habits too. Even trying to plan those non-food activities. It was just growing up, we would play a lot of board games and table games and card games, and that was just hand in glove with snacking. Like the cards came out and then the snack food came out. My grandmothers were big bakers and, people who had giant containers of Wise potato chips in, tins and things. And the second that the games came out, the snacks came out. And so I have to really be careful, even though that seems like, playing cards might be a non-food activity, of not letting it turn into one, because that's what I did when I grew up.
Well, and you can switch up the treats too. You can be the one because I used to do the thing like, okay, the 9-layer dip is my go-to when we have a game night. Switching it up and being like, I'm going to cut a giant watermelon and have that. I'm going to be the person who makes a really lovely snack tray that's mostly vegetables, a couple of dips or something like that, but stay away from those carb-centric treats. You can still make it indulgent. You can still have things to enjoy, but you don't have to make it all the super high caloric foods. It can be really difficult, like Donald said, when we are with family and friends who have certain eating behaviors, certain habits. It can be really hard to assert our needs, but I know that the minute I put my hand in the bowl, like I'm making an active choice.
Yeah.
To go against my long-term goals. We are not saying don't enjoy yourself, but know that those enjoyments, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Catherine's
making air quotes with her fingers on a podcast.
All the time.
Yeah.
We pay a really high price for that. We have family members and friends who can take one small handful of something and snack on it for the whole evening and be fine. I have a compulsive eating disorder. I actually compulsively want to just keep eating and eating until the bowl is empty. So I need to proactively, or I have the opportunity to proactively defend myself against my own instincts.
Yeah. And so just getting back to the keeping your cards close to your vest and not, putting it out there, I wanted to go over a couple of quick other things. One thing to do is don't say anything, but just take small portions, or just, we talked about this on another episode. If you're going out to eat, get on the internet, look at the menu, plan what you're going to have ahead of time, figure out the dish or, dishes that are within your plan, and order those and really stick to them. And you don't have to make a big deal about it. You're still, having whatever it is, but try as much as you can when you're eating at home to serve yourself so that you can really control the portions and control what goes onto your plate.
And we're not saying don't enjoy indulgent foods, but what you can do, like they did in the olden days, they told you fill a quarter of the plate with the indulgent food and then load up the rest with veggies and, sort of lower calorie foods. High volume, pump up the volume.
Pump up the volume.
And enjoy the smaller indulgent thing. I think we said in another episode too, don't fill up on the generic random foods. If something is really special and you love your cousin's lasagna or whatever, have it. But don't have, the dinner roll that's from just the generic whatever. Stick to the very special foods. We can have it all, but we pay a price for indulging in every single thing that's put in front of us.
Yeah, that was a tip that we gave on another episode, which I think really applies now. And I'm just kind of restating what Catherine just said, but stick to your must-haves when you're on the trip. If you're going somewhere and there is a unique place that has an item that you cannot get where you normally are, fine, have that. If your mother, your grandmother, your sister makes a dish that you just can't get anywhere else, then enjoy that dish. Have it, try and do it in moderation, obviously, but don't just eat the chips that you can get anywhere, or the foods that are just really commonplace that you have all the time. Don't allow yourself to, because for me, I know that I would eat that stuff and then be like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I can get this at home. Why am I eating it like it's the last time I can ever possibly have it?
Right.
And I always regret those choices.
Well, and two, going back to the sort of privately setting boundaries, we don't have to say that we're watching our calories or we're trying to lose weight or anything like that. We can say more generic things like, I can't drink like I used to.
Right.
I'm so full after what I already ate. I couldn't eat another bite. You know what? My blood sugar crashes if I eat too much sugar in the afternoon. You can just say things that are much more generic and they don't have to be judgy based on what they're doing. Talk about how your body feels when you do something. Oh my gosh, I wake up with the worst headache if I eat that.
Yeah.
And I do actually. If I drink one night, the next day I feel like, it's not a hangover, but it's just I'm groggy and I don't have that spring in my step.
And look, even if it's not true, and I don't like being dishonest, but just sort of generically, vaguely giving, symptoms that will happen, oh man, I can't eat that. My body does not react well to it.
Oh, my stomach just does not
enjoy that
People
anymore.
Don't like to hear about stomach issues.
Yeah,
so
you
just
can,
blame your stomach.
You can say that sort of stuff and move on. And another thing I like to do is if somebody's really pushing something on you, pull the I'm really full, but that looks so good. I need to have at least one bite of it. And you have your one bite and you move on, and then you don't have, another 10 or 12 bites, as long as you're not giving into something that's super triggery.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just thinking about, this is me, and we're on the couch, and this is what we're doing. Remember in Pee-wee's Big Adventure where he pours himself the giant bowl of food, and he's got the bacon and all this stuff, and he takes a giant spoon, and he takes one little bite, and he chews it really annoyingly, yum, 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 and then he's done, and he wipes his mouth. You could just be really annoying and kind of gross with your food, and then people are okay, we're not going to have food with them.
Exactly.
But
and then one last thing I wanted to mention is the other thing you can do is really praise the dishes that are friendly to your plan. And, if somebody's serving fruit salad or some other kind of dish that is within your plan, really, really praise that so that you can then perhaps get it again throughout the trip and not have to, not have to have that person constantly try and foist desserts upon you.
Yeah. Ooh, you know what people used to say where I never even thought that maybe they were lying about it? People would say, that's too rich.
Oh, yeah.
It's too rich for me.
Oh, that's a good one.
I never thought that maybe people were setting boundaries with food. I just thought, that maybe
yes,
it's
indeed.
Too rich. So let's talk about the home field advantage again. Just like I said at the very beginning of the episode, what if you are having people come to visit you? So many of the principles that we just stated still count, but one thing we can really think about is the excuses that we used to make when people would come and stay with us.
Yeah.
When people used to come and visit, I suddenly became Martha Stewart. And suddenly I pulled out every recipe book. I was making bundt cakes. I was making morning muffins.
Yeah.
Top of the morning muffins to you, everybody.
And were you actually making those things for the guests?
No, I was praying that they would only have one slice, and then I would want to finish it because you don't want to be wasteful.
Yeah, for sure.
But I would do that. I would set myself up to make the most indulgent, over-the-top breakfasts, have the full spread because I wanted to be a good hostess. Turns out I just wanted to eat the food.
Yeah.
And if we put ourselves in a position where we associate our value as people with the most indulgent, over-the-top spreads, as they call it.
Right.
we are setting ourselves up for behavior because we have disordered eating patterns. And there is a very good chance that we're going to secret eat before they get there. Oh, that one's a little burned on top. I'm just going to eat that before they get here. If we make it food centric, we know that we are setting ourselves up for gaining a pound a day. So what we can do is reframe those behaviors. And instead of going to any baked good, which we know is going to be danger, sure, maybe make it for the Saturday of the visit or something like that.
Right.
But Monday through Friday, keep it as much in your normal scope as possible. You stick to your normal breakfasts and lunches. Let your visitors know, hey, let's go to the grocery store. Let's get food delivered, grocery delivered. You have your normal foods in the day, and I will have my normal foods in the day. We can co-eat without having to have indulgent breakfast, lunches, and dinners at every single meal. Nobody needs that.
Yeah.
Not one person needs that.
Absolutely.
And Donald and I do that already. We co-eat in the same room, but Donald is vegetarian. I'm not. So we eat very different foods, and we're still able. It's not about the food. It's about the fellowship.
The fellowship, exactly.
Fellowship.
Yeah, we eat almost nothing of the same dish.
Yeah.
Like, we don't cook for each other. We don't make a communal dinner. Like, we almost entirely make our own foods, but we eat at the same time, like when we're both home, so that we can enjoy the experience of eating together, but we don't have the same dishes.
Do we need to do an episode called Fellowship of the Ring Dings?
Yes.
Or Fellowship of the Onion Rings?
Yes.
So many great episode ideas.
Absolutely.
One onion ring to rule them all.
100%.
And in the ranch dressing bind them.
Oh, wow.
Look, you're the nerd.
Yeah.
I just jumped on this nerd train.
No,
I wasn't
I
as
like
much
it.
of a nerd until I married you. So,
Yeah.
But really try to stick to as many of your normal foods as possible. Don't make everything food centric. Have some light meals that you can mix and match and pull together. For example, and including, have a random Taco Tuesday bar. Just keep it really simple. Have some, ground turkey, that kind of thing. Have everybody make their own things. You don't need to make enchiladas with the extra cheese. You can have it piecemeal so that you can control your portions. Use paper plates. I know that sounds really silly, but a lot of times when we have people come to visit, the number of dishes suddenly get really big and it's hard to keep on track of it. When the kitchen is a mess, guess what you do when the kitchen is a mess? You get takeout or you go out to eat. So make it as easy as possible.
I thought you were going to say you spend a lot of time in there cleaning up and snacking while you're doing it.
Well, there's that too. There's that too. But, make it easy by having paper plates. Maybe it's not the ideal. I know the environment, RIP, but also if for a week it makes a difference. I sound terrible.
The environment,
I sound
RIP.
An elitist. But I used to be kind of snobby about things. Well, a good hostess will have blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Make it easy. Just go for a week and make it easy on yourself. Another thing, good point, Donald, point to Donald Weigel.
Thank you.
Is don't mingle in the kitchen. Don't have everything based in the kitchen. The kitchen is the heart of the home.
Yeah.
Go outside, stick to the living room. Don't make everything about snacking because we definitely have had visitors here who buy full-size bags of chips.
Oh, my goodness, yes.
Sit on the couch, eating bags of chips. I can't do that.
Family size.
Family-size bags of chips. We have a family member who eats a bag of chips every night. And maintains a healthy weight. Must be nice.
Yeah.
But I know that if I buy a family bag, that family is a family of one.
Yeah,
it is a me-sized portion.
The package is the portion, whatever that is. That's what I will do. And I can't do that all the time.
Yeah. And if you can't, if you have people in your home and you can't do your normal routines, again, with working out, say, we only have 2 rebounders. We're not going to have a rebounder for every single person in the place. Yeah. Might fall through the floor, but you can do different things where you go, hey, you know what? I go on a morning walk. I'm up because we really are. We're up at 4:30, 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
We're going to go on a morning walk. We're doing 6 miles. If you would like to join us, you are welcome to do that. You can join us for a part of it, join us on the first mile and then go home from there. Trying to stick to as many of your healthy habits as you can, even if they're not your ideal. Going out on an evening walk, morning walk, whatever, again, that is a real boon to us. I used to feel bad if I didn't get in the full walk. Why bother doing anything if I can't do it all? But even if you get out for a little while, it's a little slower paced. If you're, depending on the family member, it's okay. Just get outside, get away from the kitchen.
Yes, indeed.
And again, if you can keep your weekdays as close to your routine as possible, getting, happy meals instead of the full things, it's okay to relax your rules, but then maybe plan on, hey, I know I like to sound like we're having organic conversation. Hey, everybody, we're going to do a big meal on the Saturday before you leave. That's going to be the big indulgent, Italian dinner or whatever. You can do that and save the indulgence for the end of the trip. Because I find if I start indulging at the very start, it is so hard to dial back. It is so hard if you've set the standard that every morning is going to be like a big country breakfast or a giant lunch. You're setting that standard. You can dial it back, especially now in this, post-COVID or, in the middle end of COVID situation. This is an opportunity to create some new rules and some new boundaries and some new habits, because all of us are kind of out of practice. And I think as we're ending this, I think really understanding this is all going to be really awkward.
Yeah.
It's really weird to see people again. It's really weird to go to restaurants, to be in crowds of people. It is okay to just be okay with the discomfort of all of these new weird choices. Hey, you know what? It's really hard for me to moderate a lot of food with people. What are your expectations for the trip? It really helps me if I can stay eating my normal protein and faye and vegetables during the day. Are you cool if we kind of do our own things? Hey, I need to eat 3 meals a day. I know you only eat 1 meal a day. Why don't you guys go out to eat and I'm going to stay home and kind of chill out a little bit? Because sometimes we just need time by ourselves. Being with people 24 hours a day from the morning, until evening, that's a lot of time together. Everybody needs a little bit of space. At least I do. So it's okay to establish new behaviors and new patterns with people because we haven't seen people in a year and a half.
Absolutely. And if you are establishing a new pattern of behavior by listening to We Only Look Thin, congratulations and thank you and welcome aboard. We really appreciate each and every one of you. If you like this episode, all of them are still available wherever you found this one, or you can also listen to all of our episodes on our website, weonlylookthin.com.
And if you are at weonlylookthin.com, you can head over to the little button that says join our support group if you're a lady. And you can get support from me, Catherine Weigel. I was going to say she, Catherine Weigel, but that's just me. I don't talk about me in the third person.
Yeah.
But if you are having visitors this summer, WOLT Place is a great place to virtually escape from people or get extra support when you are dealing with challenges. Join WOLT Place. You can find out more on our website. We have 2 subscription options, a monthly option with a 3-day complimentary trial and a 3-month option. Perfect length of summer option. If you want that, you get a 7-day complimentary trial there too. So it is honestly a great place. I know this sounds salesy, but in all honesty, we do 2 to 3 Zoom meetings a week in the evenings and in the morning. We vary the time so that everybody can chime in. It is a great place for support and troubleshooting if you are managing guests or situations you didn't even expect.
Yeah,
it's a great place for extra support. So you can find out more there.
And if you would like to get in touch with us, you can reach us through our website, or you can email us at weonlylookthin@gmail.com. You can send us questions. We will answer eventually. You can send us episode ideas. We've turned several listener emails into episode. There are things you want us to talk more about. If you want us to really dive back into something that we haven't talked about in a while, we would like to hear from you. And you can also reach us or follow us through the socials, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram at We Only Look Thin.
Yep. And if you are feeling generous and would like to throw us 5 stars on the Apple Podcast, that would really help us. We would really appreciate it. It not only boosts our mood, but it also helps others find our podcast and grows our listenership.
Yeah, and we're coming up on 500 5-star reviews, and we would really love your help in getting there. That would really make us feel great and also help other people find the show.
So if you're totally lying when you stare your cousin in the face saying that you couldn't eat another bite and you totally could, just remember that Donald and I are
an inspiration.
I totally could.
The information that you hear on this podcast is for informational purposes only. The hosts are not medical professionals. You should always consult with your doctor, nurse, or other certified health professional before beginning any diet or fitness program.